Hi, this is Gambit from the X-Men, and you're listening to Adventures in Collecting. Take care, Chef.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hello.
Dave, we're back.
We are.
Today is going to be tonight. This episode, whenever you're listening to this, this is going to be I think this is going to be a fun one, a particularly fun one.
Yeah, I think so. It is another special episode. Yeah. Although the special episodes are becoming the normal episodes.
Yeah, I think we might need a new bit for the beginning.
Yeah,
of these episodes. Well, Dave, joining us on the pod today is a guest with a much different background than any of our previous ones. Actor Tony Daniels has given a voice to countless characters over the years, but most notably the iconic and very toyetic Tony the Tiger and X-Men's Gambit. Tony, welcome to Adventures in Collecting.
Come on, get to the chopper. We're not going to make it. Sorry. I was practicing for, some ADR for Arnold, whatever happens.
Hey, man, this is gonna be a treat, isn't it?
Actually, the Frosted Flakes treat where you crush them all up and make them with peanut butter. It's so good.
I mean, breakfast cereal all the major companies now, like with their offices, when hopefully when we can all get back to places with those breakfast cereal bars, cereal culture is like a big thing. So
it's true. It's true.
So before we jump into the meat of the episode and learn more about you and your career, the first thing that we ask all of our guests: do you collect anything? And if you do, what are you a collector of?
Well, let's see. I've got some first books. Like my wife and I have the first Flintstones comic book, believe it or not, and I've got the first Backstreet Boys comic book, which was given to me by Stan Lee and Tony Pastor when I worked for them. Tony was like, we lost Tony to COVID, and he was my all-time craziest favorite director and best buddy. I used to spend months at a time with him and at his place in Palm Springs. We create and write and do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, they gave me. I was voicing. I was one of the first guys to do this. I mean, internet was 56K modems, and Tony's on the phone with me. He's in Florida with Backstreet Boys, and they're going live. And they go, he goes, Tone, we need this like intro to the show, like now. And I'm like, okay. So I recorded it. And then, waiting for a WAV file, because back then there was no MP3s. You're waiting for the WAV file to upload. Finally, it gets over there, and they pop it onto the thing and right onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the Backstreet Boys, and all that stuff. So it was pretty cool. But my biggest collection is guitars.
Oh, hey, I have a couple of those.
What do you got?
So I have a.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, folks. Guitar players, as soon as anyone has more than one, it's like a big things. Go ahead.
So I have an Epiphone Dot.
Beautiful.
I have a 90s Mexican Strat, which is
me too.
That's really my go-to over the years.
What color is the Dot?
The Dot is cherry red.
Ah, it's a beauty.
The Strat is black, and then my other my other guitar is I have a Gibson Les Paul Studio that's a blonde with a maple neck.
Mine's tobacco brown with special pickups put in by Daryl Gilbert at Gibson.
Oh, awesome!
And they're kind of like the P90s without the soap on the front. They're really cool. You're gonna hate me. I've got 55.
That's That's a lot of guitars. But
It's a
hey,
collection.
it's a collection. Yeah,
But I've got
absolutely.
cool ones. Hey, you have any more? Or
And then the other one I have is a uh what is it called? It's not a Jaguar.
oh,
Jazzmaster. I have
oh, the
a
Jazzmaster
yeah,
bass.
I have a Jazzmaster.
Oh, the guitar,
Yeah,
not a bass. Okay.
not a bass.
With like the 3 little switchy things on it.
So the one that I have is actually like it was a short run of like a watered down version of it. So it has the 3 knobs, but it doesn't have any of the switches on it.
Oh, no switches. Cool.
So it's a little more of a streamlined version, and you don't have as much control, but at the same time, less to muddle with.
No, it's fine.
So what are your favorites? I mean, I'm not going to make you
Um,
list all 55. We'll be here all
n
night.
no, I got some special ones, like, and I'm gonna include some of my other things, like my mandolins, like, my wife was betting. She was betting on me to come through. No, my wife was, she was involved in the Julian's auction when Les Paul passed, and I had a friend actually at the auction, and some of the guitars were going for like 100 grand, 120. We're not gonna spend that kind of money on a guitar. And in fact, one of the gents he dropped at least 1 million, and he's a very famous guitar player, but his guy was there buying all the guitars. So there was a Mando that came up, and it was valued at like 3,500. So we got it for 38, and then they called and said, "Dude, they made a mistake on the value. It was 10 times that." I'm like, "Well, cool." So I actually used it on a couple of records, and it sounds amazing. And it's old, and I never even changed the strings because he was the last guy to play them, so his epithelials are on there. So it's kind of cool. And then I had years ago, I had this is a cool story. I was working in radio. Radio, listen, he's got a radio voice. Fantastic sound right there. And so I answered this ad in the papers for a used Dobro knockoff. So I drive like, I don't know, hours and hours and hours. It was like really far. I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't have done this. But I get to the guy's house and he's like, dude, I'm a huge fan of listening to On Air. You come up on the skip. It's like 6 hours away. So I get there and I said to him, I said, hey, dude, can you open the door right away though? Because I smell a wolf. His face freaks out. He's like, what? What's going on? I said, no, I'm telling you, I smell it. How did you know? I said, I do. I smell it. So he lets me in, takes me over to this kitchen. He's got a Dutch door. He opens the top door. There's a full grown wolf in his kitchen. And he freaks out. I'm like, oh, shoot. He's going up to get an axe or something. He's going to kill me. He went up and grabbed a transcript of a book he was writing and said, dude, here's the guitar. Play it. If you like it, it's yours. So I play it and I go, yeah, it's great. And he goes, it's yours. Take it. And I go, no, it's a fair price you're asking. He says, well, okay. You just gave me the ending to my book. The guy, his Native American friend said, if a guy shows up at the door and tells you that he recognizes the wolf, it'll give you the ending to your book. And he got it.
Whoa.
So, yeah. Little shivers going on. Anyway, and he said, how did you know about the wolf? And I said, when I was a kid, I was stuck on this ice thing way up north. And there was a bunch of wolves, and you can smell them. They have this really cool, like musky, I should say, smell. Unless it's like a dead wolf, and then it'd be musty. But it was it'd be musky. It would be Wolverine. But anyway, so he goes, okay, all right, I'll take the money for the guitar, but you have to accept a gift to go with it. I go, okay, yeah, because he had no slides. I was using a Coca-Cola bottle. So he goes upstairs, and he's walking down with this box, a Fender box. I saw that. And he says, you have to take this. And I go, what? He goes, take it, but you have to promise you don't open it before you get back to the city or you can't have it. I'm like, all right. So I promised him. And he says, thanks, man. You gave me the ending. I'll make tons of money. Don't worry about it. So I back to the city. I get to the city limits. I open up the thing because I promised I wouldn't do it till I got to the city limits. Open it up. It's a 72 custom Telecaster, not a mark on it, and not a remake. It was an original.
Wow.
Dude, like, okay, I win. That's it. I win.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And I called him after, and he's like, dude, that's yours. I'm a big fan, and this is a good way. I don't play it anymore. I'm so glad. Blue, blue, blue. So I'm really happy. I still have it to this day, and I love it. And then I've got a bunch of other ones. And then one of my best friends is a guy named Rick Emmett. Do you know that name? You guys are kind of young, but there was a band out of Canada called Triumph. And they got a bunch of hit songs like Lay It on the Line. It's a ton of songs. And so I recorded, co-produced and produced roughly 12 records with him. So every time we had this deal, instead of paying me, tons of money to produce, you always give me a little stipend. But then at the end of the session, once we finished a record, there'd be a guitar waiting at the door for me.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so
That's
I've got
cool.
quite a few Yamahas that I actually love. They came from the custom, so they're pretty darn cool.
So, how did you get into the career of voice acting?
Music, believe it or not. And I know a bunch of other performers who became actors and then voice actors. But I was playing in a club. I was 11 years old. I was making more money than my folks, and they had 2 full-time jobs. But I was this like child prodigy, goofy guitar playing, singing guy. And I had the deep pipes, which was really weird because try and sing top 40 with deep pipes is not going to happen unless you're doing Superman never made any money. Saving from Solomon, there. That's the only guy that has Brad is the only guy I know with that deep voice. And then John what's his name? Tom Waits. Hey man, let's get high and sing.
Well,
That's it.
Tom Waits has just gotten more and more gravelly over over
Oh
the
yeah, he
years.
sounds like he's eating glass and then started singing.
Yeah.
Hi guys, I had a voiceover one time where the guy's like, I just love the depth of your voice, but I need a little more grit and gravel in it. And that day I was like, it's very smooth. It's lovely smooth. It's FM sounding. So I went upstairs to my cabinet. I said, give me 2 minutes. I go upstairs to my cabinet, but pour myself a little glass of something. I come back down and I go, all right, guys, let's get this done. And he's like, what the hell? Wow, that's amazing. What did you do to your throat? I said, I took a shot of Highland Park 18 scotch. And
That'll do it.
it just tears you up, you can sing and do all kinds of naked stuff. What? Was it out loud? So yeah, but I was playing in the club and this guy came in, he goes, hi, I'm Tom Rivers. They call me Shotgun. I go, yeah, I listen to you all the time on radio. He goes, I want you on my radio show. So I ended up going and doing radio with him, and I played guitar and sang, and then I had these, I had this love for this guy named Rich Little, who was an old time impressionist, you know. And then I'll fast forward. I finally get to meet my hero, the guy that got me, kegged into doing voiceover and impressions, because I do roughly, I don't know, 1,000. I've done, God, I think I've been paid for over 600 celebrity voice matches, from Christoph Waltz to Schwarzenegger to, Pacino, hi guys, it's Al. It's great to be here. Yeah. So it's really cool to be able to go in and do other people's voices. One of my favorite was Ken Watanabe from Last Samurai with Tom Cruise and stuff, and I found him really interesting. They were calling me Phony Shalhoub for a while because I was filling in for Tony Shalhoub on I think it was Ninja Turtles, right? The what's the name of the character?
It wasn't he was Splinter, right?
Splinter. I am Splinter. So, and it's great, Peter Cullen, I'm Optimus Prime. It's time. So I get to, fill in some big shoes.
Yeah,
And
wow.
yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I started doing that, and then I got into this other radio station. It was a new station, and I ended up, this guy was there, a writer, producer, and he goes, hey man, can you do Elvis's voice? And I go, yeah, I got it on my sleep playing, and I actually ended up playing Elvis on Erie, Indiana, The Other Dimension, the series, and they wanted the big
Oh,
fat
man.
Elvis. Yeah, man. And they made me gain 80 pounds. I'm not kidding you. They didn't force it, but it happened because they were like, oh, you want the fat Elvis. So I actually gained 22 pounds in a weekend to play the fat Elvis on a Monday. And you walk in and you're half dead going, all right, where's the gosh dang camera? Come on. I'm hungry. And
That was one of our favorite series, both
Wha-
Erie, Indiana, and the
the
sequel
Next
series.
Dimension.
Yeah, the Next
Yeah,
Dimension.
thank you.
Fox
Yeah.
Fox Kids, right?
Fox Kids. I was, I thought I owe a lot of my life to Fox Kids, with the X-Men and with the Avengers and everything else that came after it. And of course, Erie, Indiana, The Other Dimension. The original Erie was awesome. So I was happy to be called in to do it, and it was cool. One day we were shooting, and we must have did like 20 takes, and they had me eating every single take. I had to eat this peanut butter banana. Um, it had all kinds of crap on it.
Probably
Mustard and
bacon.
bacon. There's bacon and mustard, and it was disgusting but good, right? And I ended up, because we did like 17, I ended up eating all 17, and like halfway through, I go, guys, I gotta go to the bathroom. For what? So I go in there and let me go, let me out of here. And it was like disgusting. And I remember I was carrying that weight for such a long time. And I went back to work with Howard Stern, and Robin saw me and she goes, "Oh my God, you look like a big fat pig." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. You gained a lot of weight. She said, "But I want to help you." And she did. She and Tim Sabian helped me lose like 70 pounds. Like I just, because I'd gained so much from that and then never lost it right away. So it's not good to put on. So back to the voice acting career. I was an actor first. One of my Rick Emmett's brother. Speaking of Triumph guitars, Rick's brother Russell, God rest his soul, he passed away. He had a small theater company where we were in high school together. He says, "Hey, I heard you know electronics and stuff inside out," and I go, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "I want you to come and do tech directing on one of my plays." So I ran to the thrift store, and I found an old, I guess, receiver and another receiver, and then I was working part time at this cable company, and the guy had thrown out all these cool headphones with mics built in, and I go, "What are you doing with these?" He goes, "They're garbage. They don't work. I can't fix them." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take them." I fixed all 5 of them. And I took him there and we set it up so we could talk backstage and the director could, and he goes, "This is unreal." So he says, "I'm doing another play next month and you're in." I go, "Cool. I'll do the same thing." He goes, "No, you're not. You're going to be acting in it." And that was it. That started it. And then I went back to radio. And like I said, this guy asked me to do Elvis, so I did Elvis. And then then the next day he needs another spot. And he goes, "Hey, we're doing the spot on Monday. You got to learn Dudley Moore's voice." So I spent the whole weekend learning Dudley Moore. Yeah. I was a little drunk. Anyway, I get on Monday. I start doing Dudley Moore to the script that looked really odd. And he goes, "Hey, dude, what the hell are you doing?" And I go, "Dudley Moore." He goes, "Oh, no, 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 man. I asked for that cartoon, Dudley Do Right." I don't know if you
Oh.
guys ever seen. Remember that? He
Couldn't
goes,
be
"Oh my."
two different Dudleys, huh?
Yeah. And I said, "What?" I said, "No, you said Dudley Moore, dude. I even asked you, the English guy." And he's like, "Oh, no, no, no. I meant the." I'm like, "Well, let's just do it." And he goes, "You can do it?" I go, "Yeah, yeah." So, and that was the start of it. And that's how I ended up, I started doing that. And I got onto this regular morning show, which by the way was, it paid really nicely. But they kept calling me the man of 1,000 voices. And I did at the time like 20. And so every week they're going, "Okay, learn this, do this." One day I walked in, I started doing Eric Roberts, and then he goes, "Who's that?" I go, "What are you, stupid?" I'm like, "Forget about it." So we ended up doing a bunch of stuff, and I started working with different stations and doing dial-ins and funny impressions and stuff for people. So that's really how it got going. But it started on stage, and it was great. And I'm more of a character actor, so I prefer it because, I don't, I'm not the, "Hey, I'm not your leading man" type guys. So
So speaking of characters, in the past 18 minutes, I mean, you really are living up to the man of a thousand voices thing. We've heard a ton of
yeah.
voices. What tell us a little bit about the process of like when you're given a script, right, and you have to come up with a voice for a character. How does that happen?
Well, a lot of times they'll give you what's called a breakdown, and in the breakdown they try and explain what your character's supposed to be. Um, and I was lucky enough to work with directors that could go, "Hey, you know what? I don't know, this guy's a mole. So give me some kind of thing you think is a mole." And I do it, and they go, "Perfect, let's do it." Did you guys ever see the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty with Ben Stiller?
Yes.
Okay, so the part where Sean Penn's reading his own letter while Ben's holding it, and you hear Sean's voice.
Is that not Sean Penn?
Not all of it. Not all of it. I really enjoyed working on that one, but it's not going to sound like it right now because while we're in the studio, I got the booking through my friend Dan, who was casting, and he's like, Tony can do it. Trust me. And so when I did it the first time, I realized that Sean Penn is not a big. I've got a huge chest. I got a 50-inch chest. I sang opera for a while. So don't even start. Anyway, so so I've got this 50-inch chest, and I'm looking at Sean Penn. It's like, man, he's got like a 22-inch chest, if anything. So, I didn't know this. We get into the studio, and um, we were doing it kind of remotely at the time. And they said, it's sounding a little heavy. And I'm like, oh, we were working on Tony the Tiger that day. So I said, hang on for a sec. I just want to change mics because this was set up for something else. And they go, okay. So I get the sound engineer, Danny. He came in. I go, Dan. I said, it's not the mic because it was a Manly reference mic, which is like a $5,000 mic. And it's absolutely stunning. I said, roll off the bottom end from 300 down because it's Sean Penn. He's got no chest. So he talks, and we rolled off the bass, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, okay, that was great, good call. Nice to change the mics." So I didn't want to tick them off, but it was just like that when I did the audition, I had the wherewithal to roll his audio off his EQ because he's not a big statured man, and it sounded great. And then they said, "Oh, hang on. Somebody wants to direct you for one more pass." And I'm like, "Okay." And the guy gets on. He goes, "Tony?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, let's go from the top." So I do it. And he goes, "Hang on. Who's the engineer?" Danny. Dan, could you let Tony know we're doing from the top? He goes, "He just did." He goes, "That wasn't the recording?" No. Dude, let's go again. So he did. And he changed a couple of lines. All right. And then he gets off and he goes, "Thanks." And so the producer gets back on. She goes, "Oh my God, Mr. Stiller loved you." And I go, "That was Ben?" So it's cool. And then fast forward, I'm at the red carpet for Zoolander 2. And I'm talking to his ex-wife, Christine. And it's really funny. Her brother and I, we just like hit it off. I thought we were going to start dating or something. Anyway, so I'm standing there and she goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Tony Daniels." And I hear, "Tony Daniels. Why do I know you?" And I turn around, it's Ben. I go, "Oh, Ben, I was your Sean Penn and Mitty." And he goes, "Oh my God." He jumped into my arms. I kid you not. I'm not lying. He's like, because he's not a big man, and he ended up in my arms. He goes, "You were amazing. Thank you, dude." And I go, "Well, thank you. It's always nice to work and nice to work on really cool shows." So that was cool. Anyway, I'm talking your ear off.
That's fine. As you know, as long as there's talking, it's good radio. It's the dead air you got to worry about, right?
That's what I say.
So one of the characters we mentioned at the top of the show was the iconic Tony the Tiger,
Who?
Who famously originally was voiced by Thurl Ravenscroft.
Wrong answer. Originally recorded by Dallas McKennon.
I didn't do my prep right. I thought it was Thurl
Yeah.
Ravenscroft first.
No, because Thurl did it from, I think it was from 1953 to 2000. And well, he died in 2005, so right to then. And Dallas did it the year before that, so 1952, 53. And Kellogg, and I guess at the time it would probably still be the same the same agency. I don't know if it was, but or if they changed agencies anyway. So they brought in Thurl, and you know Thurl's voice from something else, right?
Well, we're big. I mean, he also did the "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch," but
You're a foul one, Mr. Grinch.
we're also
You
huge
have
Disney
Yeah.
fans, so we know
Yeah.
that he did a lot for the Haunted Mansion and
Yeah.
so on
He
and so forth.
he was incredible. So I'm working with him. I was the young dude at the time doing the voiceover tagline. So it's like, "Try to Tony's turbos and specially marked boxes, blah 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 blah." So we did like 4 takes, and they go, "Oh, hang on for 1 sec, because we've got Thurl. We only get him for 15 minutes today," because at the time he was like at 93, 94, and he's not really doing well. So he gets in, and I could hear he was like, "Yes, you are my son." He never said that, but uh, he was on oxygen. So they get him up. He goes, "Try new Tony's turbos. They're great." And he does it like 10 times. And they go, "Well, that's it." And he leaves, and they go, "Man, we didn't get a clean Tony's turbos." And I go,
You mean Tony's turbos?
and they go, "Holy snap!" And that was it. And they said, "Well, um, if anything ever happens. And then I got the call about a year later. It's like, you know, good news and bad news. And I go, oh, what's the bad news? Thurl's passed. I'm like, oh, God, you know, and it was really neat because you know, just to be a part of him. And another guy that passed that I loved was Don Pardo. It's Saturday Night Live. You know, I got to work with him before he passed, and he was really incredible. Just like, I love good people that are not full of themselves. And it's funny because Jim Cummings is now doing it in the U.S. I did a couple of times in the U.S., but when Lee wasn't available, or I never knew Tex. But Jim and I have done Comic Cons together, and he's a good dude, so I don't complain.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, like, yeah, Lee Marshall used to do it too. Who is Eric? I know you may know him. He was
WWE.
yeah, he was doing WCW for a while.
Yep. And yeah, he was. I'd never really met him. My uncle was Joe the Giant. He was a wrestler, professional wrestler out of Detroit. And but that was way back before there was a you know, WW. There wasn't even before there was a WWW. he was way back in the old wrestling days in the 70s and 80s. And then, you know, then you got the WWF came in with under Vince, and then they had to change the name because the World Wildlife Fund sued them. So, but yeah, so I never got to know Lee that well, but he worked with a few friends of mine, and so he was apparently a really good dude. But he died young. I mean, he was only 64, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sad to hear.
So when you were working, you know, kind of alongside, you know, somebody with the pedigree of you know, Thurl Ravenscroft, did was there any kind of like overt teaching going on? Like, was he kind of giving you pointers, or was it more so just kind of observational stuff?
It's more observational, and you know, because of his state at the time, I wasn't really able to talk to him too well. I mean, I got to. I was doing a cartoon one day called Yin Yang Yo. I don't know if you've ever seen that. And the director, Steve Marmel, brilliant comedian, great guy. He's like, "Oh, Tony, got to sit down. We've got a friend of mine's going to be doing a couple of voices here, and he'll be doing them with you. But we're going to start with him, and then we'll do something together, a scene together." I'm like, "Okay," and we're doing it remotely, and so and it's funny because the guy starts talking, and I'm like, "The guy sounds like Seth MacFarlane." That's who it was, you know. And it's funny too because I actually did ADR on Ted and Ted too. For him. Yeah. Yeah. It was great. You know. So it was really cool. And I got again, you know, you learn from just listening. You're learning a lot. You try not to ask questions because some guys get really ticked off. So I didn't want to ask anything. But yeah, with Thurl, it was more like, wow, listen to that. Listen to the way he's just like rounding the words. So when I ended up doing it, I started, you know, and then I can even do. Remember when he had Tony Jr. His son was in the commercials. I don't know if you ever saw
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
You know, and he would squeeze his face, Thurl, and go, "You know, Junior, it's so nice to be here." You know, and I just crack up because it was such a cool thing. And I actually sang um, before he passed. I actually sang something in his voice for one of the producers who was presenting it to the agency, and they were like, "Wow, how'd you get him to do that?" And they go, "No, that's Tony Daniels." I was like, "Oh God, it sounds like him." And they go, "Cool." So it was pretty cool.
So from a breakfast cereal mascot to a card slinging Cajun mutant, how did you wind up the voice of Gambit?
Well, it's a cool story. Chris Potter was the original Gambit in the series, and um, I auditioned for Gambit, but the director and the one of the producers were like, "Dude, you can do any voice. We'd be better having you do a bunch of characters." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I wanted to be him." And they go, "No, no, 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 no. You do a bunch of characters, you'll make more money." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, because you know, a lot of times if you do end up doing like a lead, they go, We don't want to burn out our leads, or we don't want to have them do too many," because they do. You know, a lot of guys can't do different voices in the same tone and stuff. You know, because there's always giveaways to a lot of people. I've been lucky because I mean, I've done. There's a series called Ned's Newt, and there's a scene where I do 9 different characters, and you cannot tell it's not the same person, and it's cool. So I ended up playing Bobby LeBeau, which was Gambit's brother, right? So I played Gambit's brother, and Chris Potter was Gambit for the first 3 seasons. And then Chris decided he wanted to leave and go to LA to do some on camera because that was where his love was. You know, I fell in love with acting and then fell in love with being in the studio and being a voice because you didn't have to look at my crazy face. So, so I ended up, when he left right away, they re-auditioned, but Sid Iwanter, who was um, he was the go between, sort of the liaison for Fox Kids. And then my casting director, Karen Gura, and Dan Hennessy was just absolutely brilliant director. I loved working with them. And all my guys at the time, it was Sounds Interchange and then became Dave Audio. And now it's Technicolor. They were all like, dude, we need you. And it ended up being, Sid was like, well, we don't have to hold these auditions. We're just going to make it you. And I was happy because the Lee Walds were really good, and Larry Houston and all the people were just really good to me. And then so I ended up doing Gambit. And then when the series wrapped, they came to me and they asked me to do Gambit, so I did it. We're gonna step on some toes here. So they said, "Oh, by the way, can you do Wolverine?" I go, "I sure can, bub." And they're like, "Great, because Cal's not available." I go, "What do you mean he's not available?" "Well, he's sick." I go, "Sick?" I said, "Well, why don't you just do a phone patch session?" And I know they're back then they were really expensive. Like to do an hour would be a few $1,000. And they said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to spend that kind of money. We don't do this. So they said, so you don't want to do it? And I go, yeah, but it was Cal's voice. And they go, look, either you do it or we'll get Lawrence Bain to do it. And I'm like, I'll match it better. No offense to Lawrence, because I love Lawrence. I said, but he's going to be okay with it. Oh yeah, he wasn't. But everybody's lucky they make you the character you are when you're acting, because they can just give it to any actor. And if you do it nicely and great and the writing's good, it's gonna fly, and it doesn't matter. That's why I laugh at all these award shows sometimes, because we're rewarding these great actors for doing something amazing, when it takes a really good writer, it takes a really good producer, and it takes a really good team to put it together. You just feel a part of it and you're happy because you've done a good job and able to make what they've done shine just that little bit more. You're the kind of like the icing on the cake. And to make it any much more of that, it's kind of silly to me. But I was just, proud to take the reins from Chris, and it was cool.
So when you're voicing somebody like Gambit for television, do you get the opportunity to voice the character when it comes to something like a video game?
Well, and that's what happened. So they said, so we ended up doing, oh man, I can't remember all of, I can't remember all of them, but I guess if you go to the voice actors page, you'll see I did Gambit probably longer than anybody. I ended up doing 1, 2, 3, I think 5 or 6 video games. And I didn't just do Gambit, again, Wolverine and Toad and a couple other characters. And it was great because, if they know you can pull it off on the series, they bring you in and do that. I ended up doing, but it wasn't, they were long sessions. They were fun and great. The longest session I ever did was for the Black Mirror, where I played Samuel Gordon, which was kind of like almost like hi, it's me, Captain Picard. I had that type of range, and I did that for Patrick one day. We were at the same agency, and he's like, "Hello," and I go, "Have Wesley Crusher meet me in my ready room. Tell him to bring a wet towel." And he goes, "Oh, that's very good." He's a sweetheart, man. I'll tell you, he's a good dude. Anyway, so yeah,
And I mean, I always loved that when when I was a kid, like watching something like X-Men or any cartoon, and then you go to the video game and it's like, oh, that's the same voice. Like you pick up on it.
you did Street Fighter versus X-Men.
Definitely played that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So all right, man, that's all me, right? So anyway, so the best part of that, though, I got to tell you, I for 9 years I did this thing through one of the radio stations I was working for, and it was called "The Dreams Take Flight," where they take 400 children on a plane, usually a 747, fly down to Disney World, And these kids mostly were, well, the groups I always with was terminally ill, and it was really hardest thing, man. I'm gonna cry in a sec. It was the hardest thing to do, but I wanted to do it because if you can make a kid smile just before they go, it's kind of heart wrenching, but you feel like at least you made a connection. So I had this group one year. My friend Danny and I. Danny's gone too. He was a great. He was a game show host, and we had a radio show together. He was just a sweetheart. Anyway, so we had a group of kids that were all blind from cancer, and they were all terminal. And it was the hardest day. So I had this one child, and he held my hand, and we're walking, and he asked me to do a bunch of the voices. So I did Gambit the way I did in the video game, and Wolverine, and a bunch of characters. And I said, but yeah, it's not going to come out till I don't know when, probably, end of the year, because we just voiced it like 3 months ago. And we're walking along. I swear to God, guys, I hear him go, Mister? I go, yeah. He goes, you're over there. And he's pointing. And I look where he's pointing, and it says arcade. So I said to the doctors, I said, can we walk over there? I don't know. This is weird, man. So we walk over, and there it was, the brand new Street Fighter versus X-Men. He could hear my voice from like 500 feet away.
That's
And
unbelievable.
dudes, I cried, man. I was like trying not to let them hear me because they know he's got this amazing hearing, and it's, the senses do take over. And when I went back the next year, I got a new set of kids, and I asked about that set of kids because there were some wonderful ones, and they'd all gone. And it was really hard. But, if you can just touch somebody, it doesn't matter who in their, in that much time left, especially when they're terminal, it's really, it's hard, but it makes you feel like, okay, I got to be a part of that soul for a bit.
I mean, it's amazing to hear stuff like that because regardless of what level, the fandom you're in, right?
Mhm.
Um, these characters do make connections with people. Whether it's a character that they've read in a comic book, or went from comic book to TV show or video game or film. I've I've seen people in line at Comic Cons meeting people like yourself that have lent their voices to these characters and given these characters life, and just the amount of joy in a non-terminally ill person.
Yeah.
When they get to meet somebody like you were, and I mean, I'm sitting here right now, and Dave is a half hour away from me, but I can hear it in his voice when he's speaking. Like when we hear you clip into some of these voices that we both know and love. I mean, I've got a smile ear to ear because
And
it immediately takes me back to the moment, like sitting on my mom's carpet watching Saturday morning cartoons, and it's like, you know, oh, Gambit's flirting with Rogue again. Like I'm right back there. So
I love that you said that. And it's funny because when I've got a couple of Comic Cons coming up. And when I do them, it's like a lot of guys that are in it for the dough. I don't care about the money. It's not that. I mean, you do it anyway because sometimes I like to take the money and put it into like we donated some money to the World Wildlife Fund not that long ago. And it was money I'd made from the Comic Con. But what I love is exactly what you say. You're sitting there and somebody says, "Do you know what you did for my childhood?" And I'm like, "Oh, man, thank you, or thank you to the person standing in front of me. Thank you. That really makes my day, and it does. I love it. And and again, like I said, I don't care about these award shows. I'm more blessed that these people recognize your talent, brought you on board to enhance their talents, and it's something spectacular happens. Um, for instance, there was one. I think we were in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I met my boy Steve, by the way. But we're in Albuquerque, and there was a couple that came up. The one person was dressed as Gambit and was really cute and awesome. I loved it. And the other person was dressed as Sailor Moon. So I said, by the way, I really like your Sailor Moon outfit. And the person said, you know who Sailor Moon is? And I go, I'm Jedi. Boom, head hits the ground, blood everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, medics, let's go. We had, they came over, and the person had split their head open a little bit and crying and, oh, Do you know what my life is?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And their partner had bought, a couple of gambits off me and stuff, and I was really happy. So, and I didn't have any Sailor Moon stuff out because I did Gambit, the Wise Man, Baby Jordan. Like, I think there was a kid out of, or not kid, he's probably he's probably like 50. Anyway, there's a guy out of Australia that asked me to recognize my voice in a bunch of these episodes. And I think we're up to like 100 and something, 180 or something like that. And I think I did even more. So, um, so I went through my stuff and I went, "Oh, look, I found a couple of Jedites and or a Jedi and a wise man." So I signed them and just gave them to the person. And here's some money. I go, "I want money. You've already got to take care of a big scar on your head." It was really cool to see that happen. Not cool for someone to get hurt, but just the amount of emotion overwhelming and causing that. But that's what it was.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
So speaking of Sailor Moon, it's widely considered to be one of the most important anime, stories of all time,
Yes.
and clearly, something that resonates with people all over the world. How did you get a chance to work on that English dub?
I just wanted to thank you, Queen Beryl. Um, that was pretty cool. I mean, I have a really funny story about that for the first day. The Japanese, with their vast wisdom, I had a great Japanese teacher when I was a kid, and I adored her, and I just loved the culture. So this thing came, and they were talking about dubbing and talking about, Japanese anime. It was like in its infancy at the time, in North America. And my agent got me this audition. It was to do dubbing, and just so you know, dubbing is like horrible money, but it really gets your chops going because you've got, especially on Sailor Moon, we had what's called rhythmo band, which is, for the people at home trying to picture this. So you're in a studio, you're watching a screen with a video on it, and then you're just above the screen. There's a film strip with the script handwritten going by you to a bar which marks time, which lines up with the lip flaps. So you have to read this thing while watching the screen and try to match the number of flaps because the Japanese mouth flaps in anime are totally different than North American flaps.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to make the words fit and everything. So, and I was, as a musician, I was able to do it like nothing. So I think that's what got me in. But the very first day, Roland Parliament, who played Melvin, and myself, who, Gambit, we were in this callback. So we got the callback at least. So we're in the callback and we're sitting there. There's probably 50 to 100 other actors. And we're hearing, "Okay, thank you, next, next, next." They get down to me and Roland, they're going, "Who are you guys?" Tony Daniels and Roland Parliament. "Well, you guys are already voice cast. You're in. You're done. You're great. You didn't even have to come back." We're like, "What?" And we had the same agent, so that was handy. So we were happy. And then on the first day of record, I'm there, and we had executives from, I believe it was CBS. They were sitting there, and I'm playing I'm doing Jedi, but I also, because they could, I could do so many voices. There was a thing called the Oracle, right? And so they had the Oracle, and the video stops, and I go, "Hello, can you roll the video back by about 6 seconds and 10 frames or something?" So they roll it back, and they go, "Yeah." I go, "Now roll it forward in slow motion, please." So they do, and they're going, what is that?" And I go, "Well, to me, it looks like a large phallus and testicles." And they go, "Oh my God," because
Was it
you
like
wouldn't
Fight
have.
Club?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like they wouldn't have recognized it. So they said, I said, "I can't put my voice on this because, it's going out to children." And they said, "Look, we promise we'll change the visual," which they did. And I was happy about that. But that's why I say, the Japanese culture, something like that is acceptable. Um,
Yeah, I mean, even
but,
if you look at the early cuts of I've been recently revisiting Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball with my daughter who's going to be 6 in September.
and
And
Beyblade, I hope.
and we'll get to Beyblade, we will. But it's been so long since I had watched them. I completely forgot how much, like, how many episodes there are just moments of, like, little
Oh,
Gohan just like peeing off of a cliff, and my
yeah.
daughter's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, he's got to go. When you got to go, you got to go." Like
Yeah. Yes, in America, we don't we
that wouldn't
wow.
happen. I mean, it's just
No, we wouldn't even have, exposed breasts on a movie for years. It's just kinda, something we take for granted with other cultures, and it's not that it's bad or good, it's just, that's the way it is.
yeah,
So they're really happy that I didn't do anything stupid or that I let it go by. I had to say something, and they were really, really good, and they did change it out. There were a few. I got really upset with one where the sailor girls were in a hot tub, and I go, "Excuse me, are these men in the hot tub with them? Because they're obviously not, clothed." And we're watching the Japanese version. Are they related? And they're like, "Oh my god, no." I go, "Well, that can't go." And so they made a note of it, and they changed it out. I think they zoomed it in so you can only see the heads talking rather than. And I was really upset about it. But it's part of it is just, but I got to protect kids. I really believe that. It's something I'm very aware of.
Hey, listen, as a parent, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Oh, listen, I can break the rules with the best of them, but when it comes to that sort of thing, I don't. Like I try, I try not to swear in the studio when I'm doing children's shows. And I'll tell you a funny one. I was working on Little People, from Fisher Price.
Yeah.
And it was a Friday afternoon, and I'm working with some of the greatest voice actors. I was the only guy in the room, and it was 6 women I adore every one of them. They're all phenomenal actors, very cool voiceover people. And I had walked in. They're all inside the studio, and I'm coming in now because they started me later, half hour later. And I get inside, and my voice engineer, sound engineer, yeah, Bobby, he says, "Hey, dude, I've got Fisher Price like on, the guy that's the head. Yeah, he's on the line." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I know I'm because when we're alone and we're having a good time, so I always made a rule not to really be gross. So I'm in there and they're all joking. It's Friday afternoon. It was hot out and everybody's like, blah, blah, blah. And they're dropping sexual innuendo and stuff. And so now it's my turn to sing the song. And he got really upset, the head of FP. He was really upset. So they released the girls, and I have to sing a song on my own. I think it was Policeman Patrick or something. And he goes, "Tony, I wanted to thank you for not participating in that spectacle." And I said, "I'm not going to lie to you." I said, "I knew you were on the phone." I said, "It's a Friday afternoon. Everybody's blowing off steam. And I would have participated and said some rude stuff. Nothing nasty, nasty, but some rude stuff." And he's like, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "So please don't come down on these actors. We work hard, and it's Friday afternoon is really tough." And at the time, it was like those were the heydays. I'm telling you, I was working probably I'd say 15 hours a day in studios. It was
Oh,
amazing. Yeah. And so, Friday was great because you're going to blow off some steam. And he goes, "Well, thank you for being honest." And it was fine. So he never really got upset with the ladies. I was really happy about that.
how does your voice hold up after 15 hours of work like that? I mean, that's
Ooh, that one's not bad, but I'll tell you right now. So going back to video games, I was working on the Black Mirror playing Samuel Gordon, the Patrick Stewart sound. And I look at the script and I'm like, "Holy crap. I've got 17,000 lines." And I'm not lying. I don't even think I'm exaggerating. So we're on the first day, and the person directing says, "Okay, we'll just go right through this." And I go, "No, we're not." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you've got at the end of this one portion of stuff, you've got all the reactives." And why is that a problem? I said, "If we do that on the first day, I won't be talking by the third day." "Really?" I said, "Trust me, I've done enough video games. Let's do all the reactives on the last day." So we finished all the lines on the Wednesday, Thursday, and on the Friday we did all the reactives. And then I stopped talking for 4 days.
ugh.
It was that bad because it was lots of ah oh.
Yeah.
And that was just from the bathroom. But anyway,
Well, I mean, I always think about that whenever I'm watching, especially going back to Dragon Ball Z. I mean, so much of that show when they go into fight mode is literally just a series of grunts and screaming. Yeah, and I
yeah,
and I always
yeah.
like. I wish there was more behind the scenes footage of voice actors just grimacing and screaming into a mic.
Some of it's crazy. I one time I was doing a commercial for I was doing it as Steve, Steve Owen from Australia, the croc hunter, right?
Yeah.
And I was doing kind of his voice. They didn't want exact, so I'm like, oh, I gotta fudge it so it doesn't sound exact. And we're doing this thing, and I had my friend Mike. He's doing Lay's potato chips. We're somewhere on a crocodile reserve, and I'm going. We have to be very quiet. There are massive crocs around here. One of them attacks, you're done, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, look at these Lay's potato chips. Let me try. And then you hear the crocs going crazy, right? I'm like, it's got me up. And so we did like a whole bunch of takes. When we finished the session, there were Lay's potato chips everywhere because I didn't want to swallow any of them. But there were potato chips. The whole studio was covered in them. And Mike goes, well, I'm glad this session's over. Sorry, Mike. There's potato chip in your hair. And he was a lovely man. He is a lovely. He didn't go. He's a lovely man. But you guys know I did Hello Kitty,
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Karopi and Peckle. So we got to get the kids on that because those are cute. Some of them are really cute.
So, speaking of Hello Kitty, many, if not all, of the characters that we've talked about today have transcended their original mediums and have been immortalized in plastic. Do you own any of the toy versions of the characters that you have voiced?
I'm being plastic right now. That's why I didn't answer right away. I have, I have a couple of Gambits, and I have. Oh, I got a really cool Hawkeye from the Avengers. I got him, and then I got a couple of Tonys. I was doing a bunch of Funko Pop Tony Tigers, and this guy gave me one of those big Tonys, and I'm like, dude, this ain't cheap. And he goes, thanks. And I'm like, wow. And I liked it. What else?
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably get a ton of card backs and toys to sign, at these things. It's probably
Tons.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, tons of those. They're fun. And I like the Funko Pops. I was hoping I'd get some Funko Pops from some of my other stuff, like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, X the Owl. And
Oh,
I just love doing X. He's so cool.
that's our so in my house right now. Daniel Tiger is the top of the heap for the
No
aforementioned
way.
6-year-old. Yeah,
Well, then I'm going to have to record something for your little one.
she'll lose her mind. She'll
Okay, we'll do that after we finish recording here, okay?
All right, but yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can confirm she would.
There's
Oh, good.
been a Mister Rogers pop, so I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the line they start making some Daniel Tiger ones. That wouldn't
I'd
be far fetched.
I'd like it. I just did a new Daniel Tigers about 3 weeks ago. It was great. And I when I was a kid, I started, like I said, I was playing guitar, and then I also worked at a cable station. And I was, editing, directing, doing all this stuff, camera. And then my boss came in and says, "Hey, dude, I'm paying you $4 an hour." Wow, minimum wage. And he said, "Listen, for the summertime, I need somebody to do some special installations of cable. Can you do it?" And I go, "Sure, why?" And he goes, "Good, I'll pay you 12." I'm like, "Okay, I'll definitely do it." He says, "You could still do your $4 an hour nighttime thing for your editing and stuff." He said, "But I'll pay you to install some special cable during the day." And one of the ones I got, I went to this house, and it was this older woman. And I get in there, I'm like kind of freaked out because I'm only like 16 years old. And there was a shrine to Fred Rogers. And I'm like, okay, is she going to go and get a steak knife and take my eye out? I didn't know what was going on, set me on fire with some candle wax and stuff. Anyway, so I install, everything's working great. And she goes, "Oh, I can't wait to watch Fred." And I'm like, okay. And she goes, "Oh, let me explain, because you probably think I'm weird. Fred Rogers is my nephew." I'm like, "What?" And then she showed me all these really cool pictures and stuff. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I get. I got to meet Fred Rogers' aunt, and that was really neat. I had a couple of really cool ones. I had, in fact, I think I was just barely 16. I got a call to, you're gonna freak out when I tell you, Cal Dodd's house, who was Wolverine in the X-Men
Yeah.
in the cartoon. So I installed Cal's cable. At the time, he wasn't an actor; he was a singer, and he had a TV series called Circus. So I ended up fast forwarding a few years later, and he looks at me, and goes, "Hey, I know you, right?" And I go, "Yeah, yeah. I installed your cable." He goes, "Wow." He goes, "That was like 10 years ago." And I go, "I know." So that was pretty cool.
So, we posted on Instagram. We posted a story, and as well as a post to collect some questions from our listeners and our followers. So we have a brief Q&A prepared for you here.
Okay, I'm liking that.
So our first question comes from very good friend of the pod, at creepy NJ,
Uh-oh.
and he asks, what's the strangest place you've heard your own voice?
That's a good question. Strangest place I've heard my own voice. Well, I don't think airplanes are strange places, but they could be. So, you're on an airplane and you put the thing on, it's like, "Hey, I'm brought to you by whatever," and you're like, "Hey, that's me." And then I did a commercial for Modell's, right? And I was in some, I don't know, couple of weeks later or something, I was in some restaurant, and it's like there it was like a little diner, and they just had like one of those little tiny radios up there, and then I hear, "Come down to Modell's," and I'm like, "Oh, hey, that's me." That was really cool. And then I think one time in a men's room, but we're not going there. No, they have playback, and
Yeah.
you're taking care of business. Then you hear, I don't know what a commercial. It was a commercial for something, and I'm hearing myself going, "Oh boy, that's so weird to be, doing this." So that's a good question. Thank you. That was cool.
Next question is kind of a combination of questions or a combination that we got from many people. If you could voice any character, who would it be and why?
Oh boy, I'm the wrong guy to ask that because I do so many, right? And a lot of my work is replacing other people because it's what I do. But then I'm creating stuff of my own that I love. I'll tell you, I would wish they would bring back the manly bee. Have you ever seen that?
The manly bee, no.
Okay, I want you to YouTube it, and I'm doing like on the series. If there's 100 voices, I'm doing like 89 of them. All right, and we had like a couple of female and maybe a couple of other guys voicing a couple of characters, but I'm doing everything. "Welcome to Seaside City." Oh boy, I think I hurt myself. And he's an old man who became a superhero who's now trying to be a superhero old man. It's pretty funny. And these guys wrote it, and they're really smart guys. So I'd love to do that again. If I could voice any character, it's hard to say who has not been done in the comic book world yet that I'd love to do. Any guys you like, gals?
I mean, I it's just kind of top of mind right now because it's been with all of the new toys and everything. I'm actually staring at one of them right now. Is I know Mark Hamill just took over as Skeletor, but I feel like that's like Skeletor and He Man.
Yeah.
With the relaunch of Masters of the Universe. That's kind of an interesting concept. There's a whole boatload of new GI Joe action figures, so who knows? Maybe they'll get a new GI Joe show.
I'm GI Joe would be cool. Um, I wish they bring back Iron Man and have me audition for that because I loved I loved, first of all, I loved working with Stan. And my friend Dorian Harewood played it's so funny. He played James Rhodes, and Jim Cummings, who we talked about, the other Tony, and he played what's the name of the character? Modoc.
Modoc.
Yeah, he played Modoc. So that'd be kind of cool to be doing the cartoon version of that again. I don't know who played Iron Man. Oh, it was what's his name from Airplane. Oh, what's his name? Hayes, Robert Hayes.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. So if you were doing Iron Man, what would Tony Stark sound like?
I am Tony Stark, and I'm going through puberty. I think Tony Stark would be here. He'd be probably really cool. And like, I'm together, sure. Stark Industries is my place. I like to think about stuff, because, and it's really hard now because Downey's in my head,
Yeah,
I'm
I was
thinking
gonna
of,
say
Mhm.
it's
because
he kind of
he just,
redefined that character.
he really did. And he made it so cool. When I was a kid, I don't know if you remember the old, um, because my, pal passed away, Paul Souls. He was in the original Spider-Man series. Remember the Spider-Man series? And then I think there was an Iron Man even before the 90s, wasn't there?
I'm sure he probably made an appearance at least on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. He's
I think so, right? And I remember there was a voice there. It was kind of a cool, yeah, 1966, guys. See, I knew it existed. Trust me, nothing's new again.
wow,
There it is.
John Vernon from Animal House. The Dean Vernon was the voice of Iron Man for that.
No way.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now. That's crazy. I got to go back
No.
and watch this.
Oh, we gotta see this because I remember seeing this as a kid, like on, there was some sort of retro TV show thing in the 70s, and I think they brought it back, and I remember seeing it because I knew the song. Oh, yeah, and they did it, believe it or not, they did it out of Canada because Paul Sills was Happy Hogan, and there John Vernon was Iron Man, Ed McNamara was, Titanium Man. Oh, this is so cool, dude.
I got to go back and watch. I got to
Dudes.
find the show.
Yeah, I gotta watch this.
I've never
Yeah.
seen this. Well, let's hop to the next question. So,
Okay.
another friend of the pod at Toy Farce asks, um, do you ever listen to the voice actors who do the same characters as you but in other languages? The French Tony the Tiger is pretty awesome.
I've well, people send me stuff once in a while. So yeah, I'd say yes, I do. And I do get a kick out of it. It's really cool. Like, I've heard the Spanish Tony the Tiger. Um, I've heard some of the X-Men stuff. There's a really cool French version of the X-Men. In fact, Eric Lewald sent me the French art of Gambit, and it's really cool. I have it on my phone. I wish I could send it to you guys. And it's so cool. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I love listening to it, and it's like going back and watching movies, um, being dubbed in Italian, and listening to, American actors being dubbed in Italian. That you go, oh my god, like that's Al Pacino, but they're doing it in Italian, and it sounds nothing like Al Pacino, but it's kind of a cool voice. And with a lot of the anime stuff, they'll actually send us the anime and they'll send me the Japanese and go, "Can you match this but with an English accent?" And you're like, "Yeah, cool." So, yeah, that's a good question too. Yeah, I like doing that, and I like listening to it in other languages, like English, which I'm not good at.
So who are some of your favorite voice actors?
Well, Mark Hamill's amazing. Maurice LaMarche, Rob Paulson, they're all really cool. Jeff, what's Jeff? My buddy Jeff Wright. There's Jess Harnell. He's amazing. My friend Ellen Dubin, who we're really close. She was in Napoleon Dynamite, and she's a great voice actor. E.G. Daily, I've worked with. God, there's so many. Out of Canada, I have like Julie Lemieux, Jamie Watson, Susan Roman, Lenore Zahn. One of my best friends is Allison Court. She was Jubilee in the X-Men, and she was. Do you guys remember the big comfy couch?
I sure do.
Okay, that's Allison.
That's right. Yeah,
Lunette the
yeah,
clown.
Lunette the
Yeah,
clown. Yeah.
yeah, she's cool. And in fact, when I was working for Howard Stern, Gary Delabate says, "Can you get me her autograph?" And I go, "Of course." And she sent it right away. And she sent him a couple of pictures of him and his, at that time, I think it was Lucas, his son. Uh, they were together in the photo, and it was really cute. I was loving that. That was kind of neat. And then there are guys like Jim Cummings and um, just like so many great actors out there who I also look up to as well. And especially if they're nice and they're honest and they're cool people, I don't mind sharing time and a spot with them. I mean, Seth MacFarlane, just incredible. I mean, that guy is, he's a cut above a lot of people.
Hi- his Christmas album is a big hit in the household every holiday. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking like primo, primo talent there. And there's I know there's a whole bunch of people that I'm missing, of course. Just so many good actors out there, and people that you wouldn't know that were great actors who did voice that are just really amazing. Like I said, I mentioned Dorian Harewood. He's not just a really close friend, but an incredible actor. One of my best buddies is Dominic Chianese, who played Uncle Junior in The Sopranos, and I just love working with him. I was trying to get him some voice work because, he turned 90 this year, so it's like, come on, we got to get a few more things in before you go to the great, which I don't think he will for a long time, you know. But yeah, it's cool.
so the last question of our Q&A comes from at Power of X-Men. And they ask, this one could be interesting here. Who would win in a fight, Tony the Tiger or Jedi?
Well, Tony's kind of a pacifist. But I don't know. I'm stuck in the Negaverse, you son of a gun. Boy, that's a funny question because I think Tony is pretty passive, and
But he's also ripped.
he's ripped. I mean, and he's got claws, and the only claws that Jedi has is in his contract, with Green Barrel. That he gets put in stasis. And I think Jedi was probably, it's probably Jedi because he fights dirty and he would just, he would probably have Tony neutered or something weird like that,
But
just
I
strange.
think also he might be able to get under Tony's fur, as it were, and maybe bring out the tiger in him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, if Tony gets pushed to the limit, nobody knows yet. See, this is the thing. So maybe let's go with Tony because Tony might snap back and Jedi is gone. Claws across the head, a full on Siegfried and Roy attack.
All right, there you go. You heard it. Tony Tony the Tiger takes it on that one. So we end every one of our interviews with the same question. So Dave fulfills his role as this podcast's James Lipton to bring us home with the final question. So Dave, go ahead.
Favorite swear word? Oh no, that's the
No,
Lipton.
it's it's in the style of Lipton. So the final question is: what is the strangest and or favorite piece in your collection? It can be either one or both.
Wait a sec. A collection of
Anything.
of of anything I collect?
Yep.
I've got a couple of weird ones because I've got, believe it or not, I've got a Sailor Moon Jedi card encased in plastic, which I don't think anybody else has because I think the person made it was a one-off. And then somebody made me a little Jedi pin before it was popular. Not Jedi, sorry, it was a Gambit pin that I loved, and I know. I hope the person's not listening. I lost it or somebody took it. And that was kind of cool because it's different. So I'm gonna say, boy, probably my 1971 Strat that was given to me by Ronnie Hawkins.
Hey, I kind of assumed that after the beginning of this interview, we would be headed back to
That would
guitars
be
for the
it.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and technically even more so, I have a 1966 Hofner
Oh.
thin line that my parents gave me that they actually bought for me when I was a baby and held on to it. My dad actually had to take overtime work and part-time extra work to be able to afford it back then. And because from the time I was born, I could play. And he wanted me to have an electric guitar. I had a crappy old acoustic. I think it was a Kent. Anyway, so he got me an amp and this and you guys are gonna freak. I still have that guitar to this day.
Wow.
So it's not the most expensive guitar I have, but it means the most because they put their blood, sweat, and tears into it to get it for me. And
And Hofner went on to famously make
the
the
Beatle bass, but
Yep.
I don't know
Paul
who you're
McCartney
talking
bass. Yeah.
about. Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted it, I mean, you could have had it. I flew down to L.A. one time to shoot a commercial as John. Yeah, I actually shot a commercial as John Lennon. It was really cool. And yeah, so I mean, I studied because a lot of times, guys do John Lennon's voice. They go, "Hi, it's me, John Lennon, way up here." And actually, John, if you listen to him he talks way down here. I mean, I lived in New York for a while. It's great. And then George, like one day, came over and he did something weird with bacon and feta cheese. It just made me sick. And but yeah, it was an honor to do that. But yeah, I think it it's so hard because I love like the first Flintstone comic book and the first Backstreet Boys comic book, and I have one of the original Spawn comic books given to me from Todd McFarlane, right?
previous guest on this podcast, Todd
Yeah.
McFarlane.
Love Todd, and he's a great guy. And I loved his dad and I. Man, we hit it off. I really liked him. He's a cool dude. And I met him through my friend Steve Spaz Williams, who was one of the lead designers on, like when they redid um well, he did Spawn with Todd, but and John Leguizamo, who I met back then. But he was also the lead designer for Lucas when they redid all the Star Wars. Like when they did Jabba the Hutt. Like he redesigned it and did all the animation.
Oh, awesome.
Tomato cucumber divisha. And like, I'd phone him up and go, Steve, how are you? Oh, hey, man, great. Kunakopal, where you go, party. It's like, the hell are you doing? I go, I don't know. I just said I wanted to shoot guns with you. But
Yeah.
I actually like the little
Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb.
yeah. I always thought that. And then when he's tearing out, oh my eye. We don't go there though, because I used to get some of the because I'm Tony Daniels. I actually got a call one day from Anthony Daniels saying, Tony, is it okay if I use Anthony Daniels with SAG-AFTRA? And I said, sure. I'm Tony. You're Anthony. It's fine with me. So it's kind of cool. Fast forward, I'm working on a series called. Okay, maybe we don't air this, but I'm working. But he's gone, so it's okay. I was working on a series called Friends and Heroes, and I was working with Gary Kurtz. You know that name, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Hey, Gary, this is so freaking cool. I'm your second Tony Daniels." He goes, "No, you're not. You're my first." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, I think I get along better with you." I'm like, "Wow, oh, that's kind of cool." So we don't want to knock the other guy down, but yeah. But Gary has left this world, and he was a great guy to work with. I really enjoyed that. And told us you guys would love this. Some of the stories I heard about shooting, Empire and the original. It was just amazing.
Well, if Anthony Daniels is listening to this podcast,
Oh no!
and,
Please hang up! Oh my God!
and he
We're
wants
going to die!
and he wants to come on and defend himself, he's more than welcome
No,
to
no, he
to
was.
join us.
I have no problem with him. All right, thanks, guys. You've ruined my life. Way to go! No.
Oh man, Tony, this was
What?
amazing. This was amazing. It was so great having an opportunity to talk to you and hear about your history in the industry. Please let our listeners know where can they find you on the internet. Let them know what you're working on and where they can find out more from you.
Oh, okay. So at Tony Daniels at all the socials, we got TonyDaniels.com. And coming up in September, I'll be in, let's see, the first one I think is Erie, Pennsylvania, at the Erie Con. Erie. It's very eerie. September 10 to 12, we're at Erie Con. And then I'm at Ancient City Con in St. Augustine, Florida on the 17th. I'm trying to get on with my bro, Noah Hathaway, from Neverending Story.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great dude. You guys would love him. And so I'm trying to get into a con with him, and I'm supposed to go to England for another con, but I'm just waiting on that one. But yeah, socials at Tony Daniels. Oh, I screwed that up. At the Tony Daniels. Oh my goodness. That would have been horrible. People have been sending me notes like, hey, you're an idiot.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you again for joining us on Adventures in Collecting.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you both. It was fun. Thanks for the questions, you guys out there. That was awesome. Caught me off guard on a couple. But other than that, I'm now going to go and play doing a Scandinavian accent because I really like doing it late at night, or during the day, or anytime, really.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both in our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.